Welcome back, everybody, to another segment of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll be right back with this week's Wednesday Wisdom guest, but guess what? We're going to give a shout out to all of our great sponsors. Now, these are all companies that I used as an athletic director. They're all great companies, and I highly recommend that you check them out. So listen to our shout outs, then listen to our Wednesday Wisdom guest, then go and visit these sponsors. Don't forget to mention the podcast. I'm telling you, you're going to be glad you did. Here we go. We want to thank our good friends at Snap Raise for their support. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and been disappointed in the results? I'm telling you, those days are gone. Go to snapraise.com. We used it at our school with great success, and I know you will too. Check out their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you just found it, and it's Snap Raise. We also want to say thanks to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards or show off your school's Hall of Fame, take a look at their interactive touchscreen video consoles. You put one of their units in your gym lobby or your main school hallway, it's going to be a magnet for kids, for coaches, how about sponsors? Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Don't forget to mention the podcast, vitalsignswalloffame.com. We want to thank Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. If you're looking for a program that's affordable, that's just 20 months totally online, and allows you to earn your degree while you're completing 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge, you need to check out Ohio University. My assistant AD got his master's through the program, along with thousands of others, and it was a great experience. That's Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. We want to thank Home Campus. Home Campus is the official high school sports platform for a number of states, thousands of ADs, and their platform is truly game changing. The athletic clearance and eligibility component alone is going to leave you speechless. Check out Home Campus and see all the great things that they can do for you. That's homecampus.com. We'd also like to thank Gipper. Go to Gipper.com and let their team help you become a social media marketing guru. Whether it's a simple social media post to celebrate a victory or an entire newsletter to showcase all the great things your athletic department is accomplishing, the team at Gipper will have you up and running in no time. It's professional graphic design made easy. That's Gipper.com. We'd like to thank Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. You can schedule a live web demo to see all their great products in action. You've heard me say one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and check it out. We'd also like to say thanks to Hometown. Hometown is changing the game for schools with their solutions that include things like, well, no surprise, digital ticketing, but how about athletic website construction, fee-free fundraising, and a whole lot more. Whether you're an athletic director, a principal, even a head coach, Hometown is going to show you how to save time, raise more money, and bring your community together. Go to hometown.com for more information. We'd like to thank Athletic Surveys. You know, at my school, we use surveys for everything, for student athletes, for coaches, even parents. And the cool thing is the information that would come back on these surveys was almost always over the top positive. I'm talking 98% approval. We still got to hear from our squeaky wheel parents, but having that positive data was incredibly valuable, especially when you're visiting with one of those frustrated parents, or maybe your principal, or even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. athleticsurveys.com. And we'd like to thank Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but as an AD, I made sure our school was a Huddle school. And our coaches, our student athletes, even our parents just loved the tools and the platform that Huddle provides. Go to huddle.com. Join the 8 million users and find out how to turn your school into a Huddle school. That's huddle.com. And as always, don't forget to mention the podcast. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast. We have one of our longest running guests of the Wednesday Wisdom team back with us after a little bit of an absence, but we're excited to have her back again. Longtime listeners of the podcast will certainly recognize the name Dr. Megan Buning. Has a tremendous background in athletics. If you're new to the podcast, you just need to go on YouTube, Google her, but Google our podcast and type in Megan Buning. She has a full interview. She has several of these Wednesday Wisdom segments. And the thing I love about Dr. Buning is she was an elite athlete herself. She coached at the Division I level, has international experience, but now she has been in, let's say, the world of academia, but more so than that, applied academics, not just theoretical stuff. If you're a coach, if you're an AD, if you're a leader, you really need to follow and subscribe and do all those great things to Dr. Megan Buning of, well, let's get this out, Florida State University and FSU coach. So, Megan Buning, welcome back to Wednesday Wisdom.
Thank you. I feel like I need you to follow me around every day and be my hype man.
Hey, if there's a small stipend in that, I'm all over that. It's a busy time for athletic directors, probably a busy time for everybody. For our listeners, we're recording this on September 10th, so it's going to be very timely when you listen to it. As Megan gets into her presentation, you're going to see that, she's got expertise in a number of different areas, but I would say probably the biggest one, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier, applied science, things that coaches and ADs can literally use right now in their situation. So, Megan, what do you have for our listeners this time on Wednesday Wisdom?
Yes. So if you've listened before, you know that I wheel and deal in the mental performance space, and I try to bring that to you all to give you little strategies and tools that maybe you use as an athletic director, maybe you use as a coach, or maybe if there are athletes listening, I'm not sure. But these are things that I work with primarily with my clients. So I have a variety of clients ranging from collegiate teams to pre-pro teams to athletes that compete at all different levels in a variety of sports, and even some in organizations that are not athletes, but they have a performance of some sort. And this particular topic, I ended up writing a small article. I do some writing here and there because I'm an academic, right? And this particular topic seemed to be a big hit with some of my followers. So I thought that I would talk about this with you. And this has to do with our brain and how our body responds to anxiety versus excitement. All right. So, Jake, you know that I like to have you do things sometimes. And so on this one, I want you to think through, for our listeners, just to use a personal example, I want you to think through the last time that you really got excited about something. And I want you to tell me, if you can remember, how your body felt. Like, what did it do?
Well,
That's appropriate. Like, wait a minute, let me back this up. Something that's appropriate.
Well, now that I am, I'm retired and I'm 100 years removed from being a college athlete and all that, I do some speaking. And I was recently invited to present at a very good friend. He's an AD over in Tampa, presented his school for his coaches. And then again later in the evening for the parents. And I just love doing those. But I remember in the break between the coaches and the parents, there was it's normal stuff. The issue with the PowerPoint, getting it set up, and the AC wasn't working, and it didn't take a lot in Florida to break a sweat. And so, that was a performance for me. I'm getting ready to perform in front of an audience, and there was a lot of anxiety, not so much because I was performing, but because of these other factors that were kind of out of my control. Does that answer the question for this exercise?
Yeah, so that's interesting. So I specifically asked you, and this is kind of the point here, right? I specifically asked you to tell me when you were excited. And you just described a time when you were anxious. So let's talk more about that. When you think about, and I'll have the listeners, if you want to pause and kind of walk through this with me, I want you to think about a time when you got really excited. Like there was something super fun or just something that you'd been looking forward to, or maybe it was kind of that adrenaline rush. And so here are the common, this doesn't cover everything, but the common body responses or physical responses that I hear the most and that maybe I've even experienced. So tell me, you can agree, yes, no, if you felt these. But a lot of times when people get excited, they'll say they feel kind of jittery or fluttery in their belly. Their heart rate might increase. They might get hot all of a sudden, so flush. They might sweat unexpectedly. They might have this rush of energy, so that kind of contributes to the jitters. But if you've ever watched an athlete, especially in that youth to high school age, and they get excited, they get really animated, right? They may get to where they can't see straight, or they feel like they can't see straight. Maybe their speech rate picks up because they're just so excited, right? So now I want you to think about a time, not that we want to remember these times all together, but I want you to think about physical responses of when, like what you described, a time when you got really anxious or you got anxious in general. And so when you think about that speech that you were about to give and all these issues were going on, do you remember any physical responses that you may have had?
Well, again, I just remember that I was excited to give the speech, but then as these things were happening, there was some anxious moments. I told you the AC wasn't working, so I was already sweating, tremendously. I I guess going back to your original question, I will notice that my heart rate is increasing, and it's never been. Something that I'm worried about. It's just kind of that reminder to me, or hey, it's almost go time, and it is a good feeling.
It can be. And so when we think about when we're in an anxious situation, our heart rate may increase. We may sweat more. We may get this rush of energy or feel hot. And so we may get this feeling in our stomach, and maybe it's more than just fluttery. Maybe it kind of makes us not feel good. And so when you think about the physical descriptions that I just gave for being anxious and the ones I gave for being excited, what do you hear?
Well, they're go hand in hand. They're
They're
literally
similar,
the
aren't
same.
they? Yeah, they're very, very similar. And so what happens is your brain actually doesn't distinguish between anxious and excitement very well. And so when we are in those situations, what we want to do is be mindful of our physical indicators. We don't want to use what's happening in our body to distinguish if we're feeling anxious or if we're excited. What distinguishes anxiety versus excitement, because the physical reactions are often very similar, is your perception of the event or your interpretation of the context. So you were excited in your example to give the speech, but because the AC wasn't working, because there were some other issues, you may have perceived that context to not be ideal. Or there was some sort of interpretation going on, like it's not going the way that I thought it might go. And even though you're a pro and you can adapt, your interpretation of those events maybe let a little anxiety creep in. Fair? So here's what happens with anxiety and excitement. It activates, both of them activate a fight or a flight response. And I know many of your listeners have heard of that. So what specifically happens is that amygdala, if I can even say it right, activates the same way. So this is the part of the brain that processes emotion. So whether it's excitement or anxiety, it operates or activates in the same way because it's called a high arousal state, right? The prefrontal cortex, so this is the part of your brain that has rational thought. It interprets physical symptoms as either a threat or an opportunity based on your past experiences, your beliefs, and even the situation itself, or your mindset about the situation. So your belief or your outlook, including those past experiences. And then it's going to give you a frame, how you're framing that situation as potential for negative results or positive results, right? So this is that rational thought. This is that how you are perceiving what's about to happen or what you think is going to happen. This prefrontal cortex also assesses that situation and then it assigns meaning. So if it's seen by you as a threat or to your competence, to your comfort, etc. So threat is going to equal anxiety. If it's assessed as an opportunity, then whatever's about to happen is going to then generate excitement. So it's all about how you're interpreting whatever it is that's happening. And so when we get into situations where we're feeling something, and let's say that we have interpreted this situation as threatening in some way, even though we don't maybe realize we are, and we're thinking, I'm feeling really nervous, I'm feeling anxious, we're not feeling excited about it. So let's talk about some ways that we can help maybe reframe that situation and flip, because we can flip ourselves from anxiety to excitement. And here's how we're going to do that. One is we're going to challenge the threat. So something about this situation is uncomfortable to you. You are perceiving it as a threat. And so we want to challenge ourselves in that moment. So we're going to slow down for a second and we're going to ask, what's really causing the holdup here? I want to identify this threat. Then I want to ask myself, once I figure out what's really causing these uncomfortable feelings, and it may be because I don't feel like I'm prepared. So if we're talking about giving a talk, maybe I don't feel like I'm prepared, and that's really causing the threat. So then I want to ask myself, okay, well, let me see, is this really a threat? So if I'm prepping for this podcast situation today, and I perceive this as a threat, and I'm starting to feel anxious, and I'm anxious because I realize I don't think I prepared very well for this interview or for this podcast episode, I can stop myself and ask, okay, is this really a threat to me? And when we think about threats, we want to think about threat to our safety, to our security. So when I think about that, giving this podcast episode, even if I'm not prepared enough, that is not a threat to my security, my safety. I'm going to be okay. I'm not physically going to get harmed, right? So the brain's threat response is for a physical protection, okay? Then I'm going to ask, what's the worst case scenario? All right, so if I go on this podcast, or I get up and I perform, or I give this speech, what's the worst thing that could happen? Well, for me, using my example, I may get up and do this podcast interview, and I may stumble over my words. I may forget what I'm going to say, all the things. And I kind of think through worst case scenario. And then I ask myself, if that happens, A, what is the chances of that happening? It's very low. And B, can I handle it? Can I get through this? Even if it doesn't feel good. So yes, it's not going to feel good, but I can move through this. I can move on past this at some point, right? So that's one thing, is we're going to challenge the threat, and we're going to kind of put that perception of anxiety into perspective, okay? The next thing I can do is remember, if I perceive a situation as an opportunity, then that can lead to excitement, because there's, oh, look at this opportunity to do, whatever it is. So I want to seek out the opportunities in that situation. All right. So for example, with my podcast example, if I'm seeing this as a threat, or I'm anxious about this podcast, if I start thinking about, okay, well, Megan, what are the opportunities that could present themselves if you do this podcast interview? Well, it's exposure for our program. It gives me practice in speaking. It gives me a chance to connect with you and expand my network. So I can go through all these opportunities. And as I am thinking about the opportunities in the situation, I want to let myself get excited about that. Yes, it's an opportunity to see Jake. He's going to hype me up. He's going to be all these things. He's going to help me grow my network, help me recruit for the program. That's exciting. Okay. Notice the last thing I just did. One of the most powerful ways to flip anxiety to excitement is to say it out loud, to tell yourself, that's exciting. I'm excited. And notice how I'm trying to get myself in it. Even though in the moment I may not feel that way, if I challenge the threat and identify it, or identify the threat and then challenge it, if I seek out the opportunities and then I tell myself, nah, I'm excited about this, and I say it out loud, when I hear the vocal, when I hear it and I say it to myself, that's where the power is. You can say it to yourself quietly, but saying it out loud, research-wise, shows that it has a little bit more effect in your ability to flip. So that's what I wanted to share with you all. So if you have somebody that you're working with, or you're approaching a situation and you're feeling this anxious or this anxiety, or especially if you have an athlete, have them identify what it is that's causing the discomfort. And sometimes that's a difficult conversation, because sometimes we don't want to admit why we're feeling threatened, and that's okay. It's a practice too. That's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to help work through some of these difficult conversations. Challenge and identify the threat. Seek out the opportunities in the situation. Let yourself get excited about those, and tell yourself and others that you are excited, and see if that works for you.
Obviously I was scribbling all these notes down. For You work with, coaches, you work with ADs. You also do, I see your posts, you do a lot of work with officials, in this mental performance area. Working with adults, they have the life experiences. They have more life experiences. They have perspective. And as our listeners who might be coaches or ADs who are working with younger coaches who don't have those experiences, are the steps still the same for, say, a high school student athlete? Starting with that identifying.
Yes. And I think as a coach or whomever is talking with this athlete that doesn't have as many life experiences, that's an opportunity in itself, because you are now mentoring, you are guiding that athlete into helping them identify, well, let's talk through this. What do you think is causing you to hesitate? Or let's look at this situation, and you help. And that's what I do with a lot of my clients that are of that age. It's about teasing out what it is they're actually scared of. And a lot of times it's the ones that I work with, they don't want to mess up. They don't want the embarrassment. And so what I always think about this when I'm trying to identify a threat for myself or someone else, particularly the young athletes, is when we keep things secret, when we keep things in the dark, it creates this cloud, this shadow, and it's this sense of, I've got to keep this hidden because this is embarrassing. But what happens when you speak it out loud? What happens when you name it, when you own it, when you say it out loud? All that secrecy is taken away. That power is taken away, and it comes out into the light. And so when we're able to talk more freely about it, so the first time I get one of these athletes to say, well, yeah, so-and-so's in the stands, and I don't want to mess up in front of my parents or in front of this coach, then I immediately ask, how do you feel after getting that off your chest? And they're like, I feel much better. And then we're able to have these more honest and open conversations. And every time you as a coach, a parent, athletic director, whatever role that you're playing for these athletes or whomever it is that you're working with this less experience, every time you help them through that, you are only helping that athlete be more comfortable. So the next time they are more forthcoming. They're like, yeah, I felt good when I got that off my chest. And they're more willing to go ahead and work through it more quickly.
Yeah, well, great stuff. And that's what we do. We're working with kids, trying to help them get better. ADs, we're working with coaches. You mentioned earlier growing your program. Let's go and share with our listeners that program. What is FSU Coach? And I'm being silly here. Why should they care?
Yes, yes. So, fun fact, I've had a role change. FSU coach we call it FSU's athletic. We changed our official name, so it's FSU Interdisciplinary Center for Athletic Coaching, and then we go by FSU Coach, just kind of a short, just because that's a long name, right? So we have a master's degree program where you can get a fully online master's degree in athletic coaching, or you can get a graduate certificate in athletic coaching. And usually the certificate students are people that are already attending Florida State as a graduate student and they just want to get that certificate, or we have some state employees that will come in as non-degree seeking students and get their certificate. Would love to have you all and maybe your coaches come into our master's degree program. You should care because it is more formal training and providing more rigor in the field of coaching. So what we're going to do when you come in to either program, we're not teaching you the X's and O's of your sport. We're teaching you things like leadership, ethics, we're sports psychology, which you'll get to work a lot with me, how to use research to inform some of your decisions, so evidence-based practices. And those are just kind of helping skills. Right now this fall, I'm running a helping skills course where we're, for our program, if you come to us, you get a free coach DISC assessment. And we use the DISC assessment behavior profiles to teach you helping skills and create self-awareness about you. My role change, that's what I mentioned before. I'm the new master's degree coordinator and graduate certificate coordinator. So if you have any questions about those programs, I'm your person.
Well, if they want to find out more, how do they get in touch with you? How do they get signed up?
Yes. So email me at m.buning, m.buning at fsu.edu. And you can also, if you just Google FSU Coach or FSU and then Interdisciplinary Center for Athletic Coaching, our website will pop up and you should see all the information you need about our degree programs. And this is recording in September. If you want to join us in the spring, you have until November 1st to get those applications in. And I hope I see some of you come through.
Oh, no, absolutely. And let's go and give a shout out to one of your FSU Coach graduates and a podcast friend, Tessa Taylor, just had a publication. Give us 30 seconds on that.
Yes, Tessa, Coach Taylor, she's been amazing. She's also taken up a new position with the Florida Coaches Coalition, so I'm excited about that. She is serving as a mentor in our new FSU Coach Women's Initiative, which is coming up. We'll be launching that this fall, which will provide mentoring. And Coach Tessa will be, as an alum, one of our mentors to our current women coaches that are in our program. And we have a lot of great alum that are doing some really wonderful things, and excited to see what everybody gets up to the coming weeks.
Well, Megan, thanks as always for taking the time to share with our listeners. All the best with your new position and all the things that go with it. And of course, we're looking forward to catching up with you the next time we get up to Tallahassee. For our listeners.
Sorry.
That's okay. For our listeners, we want to say thanks to you and remind you that we upload the Zoom recordings of all of our interviews to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do Wednesday Wisdom just about every week and just about every day. We try to share stories and best practices from the world of athletics. So please join us again on the next episode of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time. If you have not heard Dr. Buning's previous Wednesday Wisdoms or her interview, you need to go back to our library. You can find it on YouTube, find it on Spotify, and check out Dr. Megan Buning. As always, we also want you to check out these great sponsors. I used every single one of these sponsors as an athletic director. They really helped me do my job better. Check out hometown.com. Check out Home Campus, Sideline Interactive. You'll find them at sidelineinteractive.com. Gipper, go to gipper.com. Vital Signs Wall of Fame, you'll find them at vitalsignswalloffame.com. Snap Raise, they're at snapraise.com. Huddle, you'll find them at huddle.com. Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration and athletic surveys, you'll find them at athleticsurveys.com. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time on the Educational AD Podcast.